So what we've just started doing at the Great Lakes Forestry Centre is rearing a type of wasp called a parasitoid. And what we'll be doing this summer is releasing these wasps against the emerald ash borer. And the hope is that these wasps, by attacking and killing larvae of the emerald ash borer, will start to bring the population down over the long term. What these are called parasitic wasps or parasitoids, and yeah, they're not what you would normally think of. They're not your kind of wasp that's going to come and attack you at your picnic and sting you. So they're only a couple millimeters in size. They're, you know, like a tiny ant looking. They're very specific to emerald ash borer. So this wasp, really all she's doing is searching for ash trees that are infested with emerald ash borer and looking for the larva, the juvenile phase, underneath the bark. So these types of wasps are very specific. They really only like to eat emerald ash borer larvae. So even if you give them a closely related beetle species, they don't even want to attack those. So there's absolutely no human health risks. They don't bite, they don't sting. You'd never even see them out there in the woods if you didn't know they were there. The program that we've just started is called a Classical Biological Control Program, and what that means is that researchers originally from the United States had gone to areas in China where emerald ash borer is native, and they had looked for natural enemies that were causing lots of mortality to the beetle in its home range. And so they introduced some of these parasitoids into the US. They did a lot of studies to make sure that they are very specific to the beetle. They didn't want to attack other insects, that they're safe, and then they get federal permits to release them. So then we were able to get permits in Canada to release the parasitoids since 2013. And the US has been providing the parasitoids to us since 2013. So the US Forest Service and the USDA APHIS, Animal Plant Health Inspection Service, generously provided them to us. They have a big rearing facility in Brighton, Michigan. But more recently what we decided was that rather than just rely on their generosity to start to develop a colony of our own here at the Great Lakes Forestry Centre. So in December of 2016, we went down there and did a trip to see the facility in Brighton, learn about their protocol and how they do it, and then we brought our own wasps back up here and started to do the process here at the lab. So what we do, we get from Brighton, we get the wasps are originally underneath the bark of these small logs. We call them mini bolts. So the wasps themselves, what happens is they parasitize the larvae of emerald ash borer, which are underneath the bark, and then they develop and they're underneath the bark for a little while before they emerge as adult wasps. So we get the logs like this with the wasps underneath the bark. We place them into rearing containers, which are cages, which we can look at later. And the wasps emerge after several weeks. We have some adults here that we can look at later. And then what we do is we take the adults that have newly emerged and we give them a small log that has emerald ash borer larvae underneath it at the right age and stage for the wasp. So the female parasitoid, she searches the bark of that mini bolt, and when she finds the larva underneath, she actually drills through and lays her eggs in the larva of the emerald ash borer. So then they need the right temperature, humidity, the condition of the wood, all of those things are critical, otherwise you don't actually get wasps emerging. So it's not like, you know, breeding fruit flies on a banana in your kitchen. It's a really precise, very finicky process. So a couple of weeks ago we had the first emergence of our own made in Canada wasps, so that's what we're quite proud of, and we're continuing to try to improve our protocol and to learn more about it. And the plan is to have some wasps that we can release this summer at a couple of sites across Ontario. So our goal for this year is to produce around 10,000 individuals. So that's an ambitious goal for our first year for sure. but we're still working towards that. So that would give us enough adults to do probably 4 or 5 sites in total. Since 2013, we've released about 60,000 in total, but those have all been given to us from the U.S. Facility in Brighton. So we're still working towards that goal. We've got a couple more months until it's time. Right now we have a series of about 12 sites across Ontario and Quebec, and we've been doing the releases there for the last few years. And this year we're trying to find about 4 to 6 new sites, one in Northern Ontario if possible, and then a couple of others to try to spread out the range. So hopefully as far east as we can in Quebec, kind of on the leading edge of the infestation there. So the idea is that you kind of seed the population. You get some wasps there, you let them out, they start breeding and creating a stable population, and then they continue to spread across there into new sites, around that area. So it's important to recognize the strong collaboration that we have. So our U.S. partners, both the U.S. Forest Service, the USDA APHIS, have been so supportive in all of this. They're the ones that, like I mentioned, they originally went to China and did all of the background work to get these species into North America. So without them, we wouldn't be able to do it without their support. So that is an important part.